assistant city attorneys, policemen, deputies, bagmen telling me about transactions that they had either done or were about to do. All the setups for the mafia on cases they were interested in.
After 3 long years, the feds have gathered enough evidence to draw in the net. The operation, codenamed Greylord, indicts 92 people, including 17 judges, 48 lawyers, 10 deputy sheriffs, and 1 state legislator.
When Greylord is done with, the Cook County courts will be stronger, they'll be more efficient, they'll be more effective.
But Operation Greylord doesn't touch the Chicago mob's power base, run by Pat Marcy. He's tipped off before the investigation begins, and the indicted judiciary does not incriminate him.
Not a single member from the inner circle, the first ward, got indicted. And all Greylord did was put more money in Pat Marcy's pocket, because every judge that got indicted, a new judge had to come in, and that's where they would pay to get in there.
But Operation Greylord did change one man's life forever, Bob Cooley's.
When Greylord broke out, that was a breakout for me too, where I stopped fixing cases. I stopped paying people off.
Cooley's time in the First Ward inner circle opens his eyes to the outfit's endless brutality. When he's asked to fix a case for a mob associate who killed an innocent man, he refuses.
They were just a lot of evil people. They had beaten a black guy to death in the L tracks, and they said, it's only what's the big deal? And that was like one of those turning points where it just, for whatever reason, really got me angry. Now I just want nothing more to do with these people.
Cooley decides to quit, but no one leaves the mob.
They destroyed other people who didn't do what they were told, and now they're going to kill me.
Cooley decides to take the biggest gamble of his life. He will fight the mob. By the mid-1980s, Mafia attorney Bob Cooley can no longer endure the mob's relentless brutality. But if he leaves, they will kill him. Cooley decides to attack the outfit. His closest target is their political fixer, Pat Marcy. Without him, the mob has little protection from the law. On Saturday, March 8, 1986, Cooley goes to see the FBI.
I went to the FBI strike force, the organized crime strike force, and I said, look, I'd like to maybe help try to clean up the court system.
March 20th, 1986. In a hotel room 15 miles outside the city, the feds record Cooley's story. He explains how Secretary Pat Marcy, a made member of the Mafia, controls Chicago's judges, politicians, and police force. The feds think he must have a death wish.
They said, you know, are you okay? Are you sick? And I said, no, I'm not sick. Well, why do you want to do this? And I said, it's just something that I want to do.
But Marcy is such a powerful public figure that the feds don't believe Cooley's story. In desperation, he offers to wear a wire.
Even as I left the building, I'm starting to think to myself, I committed suicide. I have no idea if I have signed my own death warrant as I walked out of there.
Wearing a small tape recorder strapped to his back, Cooley starts gathering evidence against Pat Marcy.
I wired him up dozens and dozens of times to send him to meetings with organized crime people.
The operation is codenamed Gambit, short for Gambling Attorney, a reference to Cooley's taste for gambling and to the risk he's taking. If found out, he would be savagely tortured and killed. Over the next 3 years, Cooley doggedly gathers evidence against crooked judges and politicians in the outfit's pay. June 5th, 1989. Cooley meets Fred Rotee to discuss a legal matter. Cooley's brother, a real estate lawyer, requires a zoning change in the First Ward, Marcy's territory.
We sat down and he said, well, what's this all about? And I said, well, look, these people want to build They want to do some renovation of some buildings, and they wanted this, and they wanted that. How big a project? I said, oh, I think it's $1 million, $1.5 million, something like that.
Just then, Marcy walks in.
Yeah, Marcy right away takes over. What's this all about? How big is it? Who's the builder? And they know the rules. They know they've got to pay. And I said, well, Pat, I just want to know how much.
Marcy wants $7,500 for himself and Roti.
I wanted to put money in both of their hands, just to make it even bigger case.
Cooley records both men asking for and receiving their payoff. Enough proof to convict them. He now goes after other corrupt members of Marcy's inner circle. Wearing the wire, he meets with Marcy to discuss a bribe for a crooked judge. To avoid being overheard, the two men step outside.
When we go to walk in, being the gentleman that Pat is, he goes to escort me in and puts his hand right on the wire. Right on the wire.
Cooley's mind is racing as they reach the table.
He sat down and I stood there and I started complaining about my back. I stood there and I said, oh man. I said, I've got this brace. I got this brace, but it's not helping any. My back is killing me. I'm not gonna, I wanted to get out of there. And I just said, I'm going to, I gotta go, Pat. I'm gonna go see my doctor or whatever. And I left.
Marcy believes him. Cooley presses on, recording conversations with First Ward regulars. Finally, he collects enough evidence to potentially destroy the outfit's treacherous politicians. Cooley's job is done and disappears into the witness protection program.
I left town in November of '89. There wasn't a single mob killing for almost 9 years afterwards. They didn't all suddenly just decide to stop killing. They realized they couldn't get away with it.
October 19, 1990. Operation Gambit blows apart the outfit's power base in the First Ward. Judges, lawyers, and politicians are found guilty. Among them is the mob's master fixer, Pat Marcy. He's indicted for conspiracy, racketeering, bribery, and extortion. He suffers a heart attack during the trial and later dies. Alderman Fred Roti is jailed for 4 years for conspiracy, bribery, and racketeering. Judge Wilson, who accepted a bribe to acquit Harry Ailman of murder 12 years earlier, cannot face being ruined by his ties to the mob. He commits suicide. But Cooley isn't finished yet. From his witness protection hideaway, he persuades the state attorney to re-examine the application of the double jeopardy rule and retry Harry Ailman.
Under the law, we have a right to go forward and prosecute this case a second time because the first trial, due to the bribery, was a sham and that Mr. Alleman was never in jeopardy.
Ailman becomes the first man in American history ever to be retried for murder. He is found guilty and sentenced to a staggering 100 to 300 years in prison. Following Cooley's undercover work, the corrupt First Ward is exposed, and the court system is reformed to change the way judges are appointed. For the feds, it's a major victory against the mob.
I'm very proud of the work Bob did. He did a fabulous job. He probably was one of the best in producing information that the Chicago FBI office has had.
For the first time since the jailing of Al Capone in 1932, the outfit suffers a major defeat. Operation Gambit breaks the mob's links to Chicago's government, law enforcement, and judiciary.